welcome back to Griot Connects. And this podcast episode is going to be a good one, Tina.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm telling you, I cannot wait to introduce this. I want you all to help me welcome Sylvia Hubbard. She's here today, and she's going to talk about a book called Dark Facade. It's a best-selling book, and it's sizzling. And yeah, it's sizzling. It's exciting.
Fire extinguisher.
Yeah. So strap in, get ready. Welcome, Sylvia Hubbard.
Hello.
Thanks so much for joining.
Hi, how are you?
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here. I'm really excited.
It's so good to have you. The work that you've done with this book is amazing. I enjoyed it completely. I would recommend it to anyone. It is, it's such a good story, right? But the spice, yeah, that's kind of what keeps you turning those pages. It's definitely really well
agree.
done. It's just well done. So let's start with that. So before we go too far, Sylvia, do our audience a favor, do them a solid, and I'm going to let you introduce the book yourself. Tell them as much as you want to tell them about it, and then we'll go from there.
So I'm Sylvia Hubbard, and I am a dark romance, high suspense author, and I've been writing since 2000. So when I came up with the idea of Dark Facade, it actually came to me, the whole book came to me when I saw this one building in Detroit. And I think in the version you have the real address in there. So I always tell people, don't go to that address. All the other versions I took out. But I saw this building and it was exactly how I pictured that I said in the book. You know, it was cleanly ghetto.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh
see,
my
only
God.
a Detroiter can appreciate that. I should tell you, Sylvia, I lived in Detroit for about 14 years. Loved every minute of it. But when you describe it in that way, I know what you mean, because Detroit is full of those type buildings. And some of them they do very quick. You don't expect it. You don't know what's going on inside.
What's going on? And so when I saw the building, the story came to mind, and I was like, oh my God, I gotta go home, put this down on paper. And then I was like, are people really gonna believe that these women would subject themselves to this misery in order to get to the end, you know, and get what they receive? And I was like, then the very next day, a friend was complaining about, oh, all he do is sit on my couch and fuss at me and yell at me, and all I'm supposed to expect for him to just pay my bills and just expect the treatment he give. And I was like, that's the same thing, except they get paid. So
hello.
Which one
Who would you rather be?
So I wanted to bring that turmoil to life of what do you expect out of life after, you know, the kids are gone, your life is over. Do you have any income coming in? What are you going to be doing after that? Who's going to be supporting you? And it's a lot of women out there that are facing that situation, even now in my generation.
Whole bunch.
They're sitting there facing like, do I have another kid?
Right.
Can help support me?
Choices.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to bring those choices to light, but not preach to people. I wanted to put that thought in your head, like, what are you going to do when it's all said and done, and be able to sit back and say, okay, this is the life I led, or this is the sacrifices I made in order for me to live a life after all the trouble and trials are over with.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I wanted. And then Maxine is put in that position where she is living but not being alive.
Yes.
And I had friends like that. So I wanted to put her in that situation of saying, what are you going to do, Maxine, when really your only friend that you have, because you've closed off everybody else, what are you going to do when Chip hits the fan? She could be in trouble. Right. And are you really going to step out and say, let me see if I can help my friend out? And then she gets herself in a lot of trouble.
She sure does. Oh my
Lord
God.
Have mercy. Now, that's where we're going to start with the trouble.
Ooh, that trouble.
Yeah, the premise is that her friend gets invited to a sex club, basically, and ends up coming up missing. And Maxine has to join this sex club in order to find out what happens to her friend.
Yes. I don't know if I love anybody like that. I mean, I got some good friends. Tina's one of them. But
I don't
T,
know.
I'm just saying, if you come up missing, there's some limitations to what I will do to
I
bring you
will
back
report
home.
you to the police.
Yeah,
I will report you to the
that.
police.
But not the sex club?
Uh,
Might be fun.
I saw what these women went through. So,
Yeah, there's that.
yeah, let's talk about what that whole experience. Tina, I'm going to let you jump right in.
Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay,
Read
This is
some
fine.
of these words.
here we go. There were too many questions running around in her head about the group and what it was all about. What if her application wasn't approved? What would be the alternative to infiltrate to see what they were doing to Lisa? What if she did get accepted? The worry really started to make her nervous. Maxine figured anyone that was referred to the group knew about this life, in quotes, or what was going on already and could easily answer these questions. But she had no idea what to say. She would have to be as evasive as possible without letting on that she didn't know a thing.
Right.
If she wanted to find out what had all of a sudden changed Lisa, she would have to do this.
Right. So I love that passage, and I asked Tina to read it because I wanted to demonstrate to the audience your writing, the language, the flow, the pace, the tempo, just the melody of the words.
Yeah, it was really, 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 really lyrical.
Yeah,
And we read a lot.
yeah, yeah. So hats off to you for that. But I interrupted your question. I'm sorry, Tina.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, my question was really, we were talking about this leap of faith and what made her do it.
Yeah,
fear?
that's what it was. Yeah,
The
it was
fear
that,
of
that
either
fear.
one way or the other way.
Yeah, trying to, because you got to think previous to that, she was assessing her life. Like, this is all I have, and this is all who I am. And the frustration of seeing like she wasn't being recognized, no one would really pay attention if she disappeared. And then when Lisa, her only friend or only person she connected with, just up and disappeared, you kind of put your own self, well, if this was me, I would want somebody to go look for me.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you kind of question, like, okay, is somebody really gonna, who got my location? Who
Yeah. Yeah.
you and I don't think enough people even think about that. Like,
It's true.
if you really upped and disappeared, who
Where would they
really
begin? Like who and how?
Yeah.
Girl, some of us would just be lost. Let's just
Well,
face the
you know,
fact.
the truth of
If
the
I
matter,
had to
Jumping
count
in
on some
places and-
people,
there's a lot of missing people.
It is. That's sad though.
I mean,
I'm
of
joking,
them.
but yeah.
There are a lot of missing people.
It is, but and that's when you have to, and that's why I did want to bring that to the light, is that start telling people where you at. Even if you do stuff in the dark,
Yeah.
have one friend. Okay, girl, I'm going.
This is
out
where
on
I'm
my
going.
Little
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
This is where I'm going.
Yeah.
This is his car. This is how
Absolutely.
he looked. This is where I found him at. So they can find the
Cover
body.
your bases at least.
Cover your bases, but
Yeah.
you don't got to go and tell TikTok, hey, I'm going out to the picnic by myself. You don't got to do all that, but you still have to put that up. And I wanted
Yeah.
her anxiety to be not of the fear of coming up, her coming up missing, but giving Lisa a voice as to, okay, if she disappeared, and she did go to the police. Like,
Yes, she did.
realistically, I did put her at the police, and they're like, she a grown woman. But we got to remember, we all grown, but we all can come up missing.
It's true. And unfortunately, that is a reality, in terms of what happens once that person is reported. It's just not always taken seriously.
Right. Especially black
I was
women.
gonna say that.
Especially black
dark
women,
brown women,
black
however you want
girls.
to put it.
It's
They
just a
don't,
sad
they don't
thing.
care.
It's the truth.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so you always want to do that. So I wanted her to, and I did want this book to move fast. And it does.
It does.
It pummels. You can tell it just ran out of me, like, literally. And but I wanted to get that anxiety in the reader as it was in her, that I don't want to be forgotten. And maybe if I go look for my friend, this'll signify something that I'm not forgotten. And if
It gave
something
meaning
happens
to
to
her.
me, I wouldn't be forgotten.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's
yeah.
why I did it.
Maxine was a really interesting character. I'm going to ask you about. I wrote down page 79. So on page 79, you start introducing Maxine and Philippe and the society. That secret society is kind of it got me. And I want to talk a little bit about this whole concept of secret societies. Because for me, at the end of the day, some things need to be secret, but does that mean that when you make or create an organization, right, and you want it to be private, does
Mhm.
private have to equal secret? So that was the thing that made it to me a little bit more sketchy, is because of the secrecy
Well, see, I
that they
don't think you can
needed.
be private and it not be secret.
Right, because you want to make it kind of exclusive. I wanted to make it so exclusive that, okay, these men got together and decided, hey, let's create this because we can't let people know this is what we like.
Yeah,
But we want to be able to do whatever we want to do without it getting out like
without it
that.
getting
And they have
out.
to offer something that would make people not talk about it, the other people that they involve. So you have to make the reward of being in this so grand that
Yeah.
you won't say a word about it, which is
And the
why I made
consequence is so grand. That's what, to
right.
me, why they needed the secrecy. Because if someone found out how they were going about what they were doing, I'm trying not to give away everything.
Yeah.
But
That's
at the
okay.
same time, so they needed to manage communications. I'll put it that way. Manage who
Right.
knew what, how much people knew. But at what point does that degree of privacy become toxic because of the fact that you
And that
can't
yeah,
talk
and
about it?
that was the hard part. As I was writing it, that was really the hard part, where I just have to sit back after writing a scene and be like, somebody should report these people.
Yeah.
Somebody should report
Because
these
They
people.
were
yeah,
they were a little
yeah,
extra.
They were extra.
They were a
yeah,
little
at what
extra.
point do you report it? But what sacrifice, and then you had to draw back. I actually had to go back on the characters themselves and the women. At what point, what sacrifices are you making, and is this worth it?
Is
And
it worth it?
it depend on the women. And people will say, and as I was writing it, I was writing it to a alpha audience, and a lot of them were getting upset with me because they were like, well, no black woman is going to let no man treat her like this. But then other
I'm
women
sorry.
actually,
I'm sorry. We see that every
We do.
day.
That's what
but
I
yeah,
love to.
and that's what other women were saying. They were like, "You see that every
Are
day,
you
and they don't
kidding
even get
me?
a reward
They or
for
do
it."
they just not know that they are behaving in a more misogynistic
You know
way than
what?
they
I
think
think that's
they're?
a whole nother book.
Girl, that's a whole nother book, a whole nother. Because the other thing about when the timing of when you wrote this story,
That was crazy.
right? So now we have, and maybe I should talk about this now, but there are instances in society that mirror this story, right? And I
That's going
know
on right now.
that's going on, right? And I know you didn't have that in mind when you wrote it. But
No, I didn't.
maybe, what did you have in mind? Did you just want to create an energy and an excitement around what is the untouchable? That's always intriguing
Well,
Yeah.
and
at the
sexy.
time, I was hearing those women, And I was working at telephone crime reporting unit actually in Detroit.
Aha.
And so if the police wasn't needed, we have a system in Detroit. Police ain't coming. If you in danger,
Yeah, I do know
you
about
in
that too.
danger.
Yeah, well, we're from Philly.
I do know about that too. They ain't coming.
So
I've
yeah,
had
we
more
have
instances of
yeah,
calling the police in
Yeah.
Detroit and just sitting there going,
Yeah.
okay, so I guess
yeah.
they just ain't coming.
So we have a telephone crime reporting, and I was hearing the voices of these women as they were. He beat me every night, and he treat me like this. He doing this to me. But he paying the bills.
Mm.
But he providing for my kids. But I don't want you to arrest him. I just want him to stop hitting me in the mouth.
Oh my God.
What? What? And I was hearing these voices, and I'm like,
That's where this came from.
no one's
Well,
saying anything.
You gave them voice. Oh, I love you right now. I want to
yeah,
hug
I
you
do
so
too. And
I
you know
wanna
what?
hug
That
you.
leads me to this question.
Yes.
You know, and this is another reference to a particular page where the women kind of all discuss what is leading them to make that decision to participate in this. Do you think that common suffering is a unifier of women?
It is. Uh, I think it is. And I think it is because we have the misogynistic aura around us has made us close off to say, okay, well, we aren't going to say anything but to ourselves.
Mm.
But if we all spoke up and out at the same time, we can all speak up to each other.
Me
But if we
too.
spoke up and out, it would it would get so much attention.
That's what
But we
happened with me
choose
too.
not to.
Yeah.
Yes.
We
We choose
silenced
not
our
to.
own selves.
Well, yeah, but then I
Mhm.
think in some instances, this is an extension of what a lot of us have been taught.
Oh, girl, don't
That
go
if he's
there.
paying the bills,
And
Don't go
that's what
there.
yeah.
It's
As
then
so
long as he's
sad.
a good man,
right, goes to
Yeah.
work,
because if you
whatever.
remember those phone calls, because Tina Turner's mother, she was on the
Yeah.
phone with Tina Turner. He a good man. He take care of you. He take care
Child.
of me. Just it's okay. It's not okay. And I did want to bring
Yeah.
that to light. I wanted to bring their voices to the page. I wanted people to read this and say, "Oh my God, this is happening to me.
Yeah.
This I'm silenced. I don't, and the reward is not worth the sacrifice or worth the pain
The juice is
that is
not worth
holding
the
me back."
squeeze.
That. Tina. That. And that is interesting. So I'm going to talk about another sizzling aspect. So I get that these women are not as emotionally mature in or to be able to stand up for themselves, walk out with their head held high. Right? There's something else going on in their psyche to where their spines are a little bit.
I don't know.
You don't think it's that?
No, I don't know. I think that sometimes their strength is their ability to say, you know what, particularly let's say if they have some kids,
Uh-huh.
I'm doing this.
Do what I gotta do.
I'm
kind of
doing
thing.
what I gotta do.
You're
Ooh,
doing what you have to do.
Lord, that's just.
And that's why I do use the word sacrifice,
Mm-hmm.
because our sacrifices as women come, it has to do with our strength. And depending on what is depending on us
Mm-hmm.
is what sacrifices
We are
we
willing
are
to make.
going
We're
to.
willing to make.
Yeah.
Those are
People
some
do
major
not want to
sacrifices.
come home to seeing a hungry kid every night. If I can give it away for about $100,
Yeah.
just so this kid does not cry every night with a hungry belly,
Yeah.
then women will do that. Women will make that sacrifice.
Yeah, and they have
And
since there's
people
been women.
don't. We've been
We've
doing
been
it
doing
since
it.
and that's why yeah, forever,
That is
forever.
that is
Since
true. There is a that mother love thing, right? That
Yeah.
I will
Do
walk
anything.
through fire
Anything for my kids.
for my kids, for my kids. And
Right.
these women experience a tremendous amount of brutality and in terms of what Tina was talking about, that sense of hopelessness, but yet they keep moving forward, right?
Because
And
they know what's at the end. A- And you got to sit back. And that's when I was as a writer, I said, well, they at least know what's at the end of this journey. At least they know that their bills are going to be taken care of. But for the women who are sitting up in their house enduring this with some crazy guy
with no reward.
and saying he
We're not
loves
going to
me
call
but
any
punches me,
names.
they don't know what's at the end of their journey. So that's
Yeah.
why these women are here. Because a lot of the readers were like, well, I would just get up and walk out. If you know what's at the end and like, oh, I got to endure this just for this time, then okay, come on, bring it on.
That
Because
is an interesting dynamic
Yeah.
that you call out there.
That's
and that's why I wanted it in the society. That's why, as you say, a secret society. That's what made it so secret, is that we gonna take this to the grave
Right,
because my bills are paid, my kids are happy, and I
right.
have a semi decent life where people don't know what's going on in my life, but I'm able to maintain.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean,
that's what I did.
I could
I
call
know it was
out.
hard.
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, it's incredible. And there's probably goo gobs of people who are still living that, maybe not to this extent, but are making choices and decisions.
I say that they're in a secret society of one
Tell me more.
or two.
What does that mean,
There
T?
means there's a lot of women who are essentially living in their own secret society.
Right.
I did
And
it.
this would bring us together.
You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're not
Not to the
necessarily telling
extent,
people
but you
what you're
don't tell.
experiencing. Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of being Black, is that sometimes you can just look at a woman and be like, "Oh yeah, I don't want to be in that club. I go, don't look at me," because you already know. Sometimes it's written all over your face.
It's
You
written.
don't even need
Yeah.
to tell me. I know what women. And I used to wonder, because I was raised by my dad.
Okay.
Once I got into college life, I started seeing different women in different places of their life. Some of the same age, but I think from living with my dad and being around him and seeing how he saw women, you and then coming in already being a woman and having that intuition just ingrained in me,
Yeah.
I could tell women who had been through stuff and other women who wouldn't know what good times were if it
Yeah.
slapped her in the face.
As they say,
And
it's
it was
written all
like,
over a face.
This is
yeah,
Maya.
and I could see that, and I don't know whether it was from my ancestors or from the different kind of way I was raised, and then being shown women and then saying, "Oh my God, she got a lot of baggage. She don't got enough baggage. I'm gonna just stay right here." And I think that's the beauty of being, I guess, us, is that we can see stuff before we say stuff.
But I have to throw this in because I think it's kind of relevant. My mother used to always tell me,
What's that?
no matter what is going on in your life, keep your hair done and put your lipstick on.
Yes, that is so old school.
But that
Tina.
was part of the face
the face. Yeah.
and to keep the
Don't let 'em
secret.
see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't let 'em
Don't
see
let
it.
don't let them
'em
see
see it.
you sweat.
Yeah.
Don't let them see you
And that's
sweat.
how we were always,
Yeah.
always. But I think in our society, we feel it. We can just
Yeah.
eat. You can put all the lipstick on.
Yeah.
You can still see, if you really look at people and say, okay,
You can
yeah,
still see that pain.
you can still see that pain. And I
Yeah.
think that's what made all these women come together, is they are going to take this secret to the grave. But at
And I
least
was surprised they didn't help each other more. You talked about them being competitive when we were.
Well, yeah, but I think maybe competitive. Now that I'm really speaking to you about what your thought process about what you were writing, maybe it wasn't so much competition, but it at the end of the day,
Mhm.
they each had to complete their task to provide for whatever it was that they were doing. So I don't think they were maybe so much competitive as they were focused and driven. And if I have to get you out of the way to get what I have to get done from suffering
Right.
from what I'm doing right
So
here, I'm
self-preservation.
going to do it. Yeah, absolutely.
It was yeah, basically
Absolutely.
self-preservation. Yeah.
Self-preservation. Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
excusable.
Yeah, and we see that a lot
You
too.
can cut my throat just so you can survive.
Yeah, and sometimes you gotta step on people's heads in order to get it there, but
Sometimes.
That's that moral ambiguity.
Oh, you want to talk about moral ambiguity
I'm
now?
just saying.
Yeah,
but
because there's
it,
some
I mean,
ambiguous stuff is going on in this story.
Was everybody.
Yeah,
Even the
Everybody has
men.
something.
Even the men.
they were
Yeah.
definitely ambiguous.
Well, maybe they
Fair.
weren't ambiguous. Man, I think I want another word for them.
What?
I don't know, but I don't think I can say it on the podcast.
I have one that I want to call out. Hold on. Don't y'all go nowhere. Page 136. Mm-mm.
This book always scared me because I don't know what spice gonna jump out.
Check this out, y'all. Check this out. Her blindfold was suddenly torn off her eyes, and she looked around the black decorated room. Her hands were in irons, and she was naked. She only saw Devin in the room, and beside her was a table filled with sexual toys, petroleum jelly, and condoms. Think just because you have that gold crest, you can do what you want? Think you can't be hurt? Moving to the side of her, he touched a breast, and she cringed in disgust, glaring hard at him. Such direct, strong, forthright, intentional language. But when I, Yolanda, heard the voice of Devin, why did I see P. Diddy face? Why did I see his face? It just was reminiscent of that whole dark space where everyone wasn't in agreement of what was to happen next. And so
Right.
I know this is fictional, right? But I do understand that there are people who have these exchanges, and these exchanges aren't always what do we call?
Consensual.
That's the word. Consensual.
There's always dubious, and throughout this book, I say from the beginning, I do warn people, it is dubious consent throughout the book.
Dubious
There will be
consent.
triggers.
Dubious
There will be
consent.
triggers throughout the whole book.
Yeah, you needed to
In
put
that,
some disclaimers on the front page or something for some of this
in
stuff.
the because it was as I was going through it, and Devin came to mind. It was hard being in a room with him and having him in my head
He's dark.
because yeah, he was dark, and he was the real darkness about like things that were happening. And a lot of people don't, a lot of women are not, I don't want to say trained, but are not, yeah, trained or educated on these men
These
that'll
predators.
Yeah.
that'll that'll look like that'll smell like, look like flowers but smell like crap, as they say. They throw the confetti up in your face and make you look up while they're doing something down. And
It's true.
and I wanted to bring I wanted to bring that to light because there's a lot of predators out there. And people say,
Yes.
well, I'm grown, I can take care of myself, I can take care of a man, I know what to do with a man. When a wolf is in a room
Girl, say it.
with a lamb,
With a lamb.
The only
Somebody gonna
way to
get
get
eat.
out of there is to find an alpha wolf. And that is what my dad always taught me. He said, always when you walk in a room, look for the alpha wolf and make them your friend, and you never have to worry about a wolf again.
As
Great
long as the
advice.
alpha wolf isn't a
As
wolf
long as
too.
they're alpha wolf, right? You got to make sure
That you got a good wolf.
Yeah.
you
Girl, your
find a
daddy
good
was
wolf.
something. I am going to, I have this other question I want to get to, and it has to do, still talking about some of the spice that's going on, some of the experiences of the women, and how it was playing mind games, for on them. There was a disconnect sometimes between what they were physically experiencing and how it was affecting their mind and how their body was reacting to it. And there is a scientific thing called sexual discordance that you write very beautifully about, but you never call it out as that. You just talk about it. And the only reason I know about it is because another book that I read. I mean, that's why we read, y'all, by the way, to learn other stuff,
Yeah.
open up our minds to
Absolutely.
things and
Free
so
your
forth.
mind.
That's the whole point of reading.
Right.
I just had to do that infomercial. But back to sexual discordance, I want to talk about that, but hold on. We just want to go to a sponsor for 1 second.